Breaking news! A storm's been brewing quietly behind the scenes in Baltimore, and no one saw it coming, not like this. A top player called out by anonymous voices, a response so loud it didn't need words. And now, a leaner, faster, more locked-in version of one of the Ravens' most crucial defenders has emerged from the shadows of doubt, right when the team is chasing greatness. But the question isn't just how he responded. It's what it means for the future of this defense, and why every other team should be very, very nervous. But before we move on, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," right now to show you believe in this squad. Let's talk about what's really going on here. Roquan Smith heard the noise. He saw, or rather, was told about, the anonymous take saying he was sluggish last year, that he might have been out of shape, maybe even overweight. When asked directly about it during an interview, Roquan didn't shy away. In fact, he delivered the kind of answer that reveals the mentality of a player who's more focused than ever. He said, "Yeah, I feel really good. Probably the best I've felt in a while going into this camp. Really good, healthy, excited about that." But he didn't stop there. He made it clear he wasn't blind to the criticism, even if he hadn't seen it firsthand. It was his own people, his friends back home, who sent him the link. Not Twitter, not Instagram, because Roquan's not even dialed into all that drama. But when it got to him, he didn't duck it. He confronted it. And here's the part Ravens fans will love. Roquan admitted something most players wouldn't. He said, "There were plays last year that weren't up to my standard." That's not a denial. That's accountability. And then he drops the hammer. "But I was all Pro Bowl as well." So, whoever it is, they can just say it. Yesterday is the past. Tune in this coming season and we'll see. Let's take a second to appreciate what that means. Roquan Smith, despite what critics say, had an all-pro season. And yet he still owns the fact that there's more to give. That's rare. And that's the kind of leadership that defines championship rosters. But here's where things get interesting. It's not just about words. Because Roquan's body did the talking before he said a single sentence. Reporters and fans alike are noticing. He looks leaner, quicker, sharper. A slimmer version of Roquan Smith has shown up at training camp, and he's already making noise. One moment stands out above all the rest. Smith reportedly went stride for stride with Justice Hill, one of the fastest players on the entire roster. Think about that. Roquan Smith, a linebacker, keeping up with one of the quickest running backs on the team. That's not just impressive. That's eye-opening. That's a linebacker turning into a missile. The response to the anonymous critic didn't need to be verbal. It was written in sweat during camp reps, in speed drills, and in foot races with top-tier athletes. But Roquan, being Roquan, did follow up with some sharp comments. And let's not forget Kyle Van Noy. He had Roquan's back instantly. "Put your name on it," Van Noy said, calling out the anonymous source directly. That's not just being a teammate. That's being a brother in arms. But perhaps what stands out most is Roquan's poise. He laughed about the hate. He brushed off the noise. "I don't really care too much about it," he said. "If I feel a certain way, I would normally say something." And yet, instead of a social media war, Roquan chose a different battlefield, camp. Let's take a wider look at what this means for Baltimore. You have your defensive leader, your tone setter, stepping into the 2025 season healthier than ever, more motivated than ever, and ready to remind the entire league that he's still at the peak of his powers. That's terrifying for opponents, and it's exactly what this Ravens defense needs. We're talking about a unit that's already stacked. But when your most vocal and visible player raises the bar, the rest of the defense doesn't have a choice. They follow. And it begs the question, if Roquan Smith looked out of shape last year and still made All-Pro, then what happens when he's in top-tier form? What does that version of Roquan Smith look like over 17 games? What does it mean for offenses trying to find soft spots across the middle? For running backs hoping to turn the corner? For quarterbacks trying to beat the blitz? Could we be looking at Defensive Player of the Year conversations by midseason? Or something even bigger? Because here's the thing. If Roquan Smith truly is in the best shape of his career, and by all visual and reported accounts, he absolutely is, then the ripple effect through this Ravens defense could be monumental. This isn't just about Roquan being a great player. It's about the psychological and strategic advantages that come with having your captain, your anchor, playing with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. Last year, Roquan was already the heartbeat of the defense. He was the guy barking signals, setting the tone pre-snap, diagnosing plays in real time, and flying to the football. And now we're watching a leaner, faster, even more driven version of that same guy who just so happened to be one of the best linebackers in the NFL in 2024. Let that sink in. Imagine you're an opposing offensive coordinator trying to scheme around that. Your running back thinks he can get to the edge? Not with Roquan going step for step with Justice Hill. Your tight end wants to work the middle of the field? Better think twice, because Roquan's dropbacks look even sharper this year. Your quarterback thinks he can roll out and buy time? Good luck when a guy built like an outside linebacker with the mind of a defensive coordinator is tracking you down before you even hit your second read. And again, let's not underestimate the leadership side of this equation. When Roquan walked into training camp looking like a whole different beast, that set the bar for the rest of the roster. Young guys like Trenton Simpson? You think he's not watching Roquan's every move? You think Patrick Queen didn't take notes on how Roquan carries himself when he was still in that building? Roquan isn't just one of the best players on the team. He's a culture setter. He's the guy you build defenses around. And when a guy like that shows up in elite condition after being slandered by anonymous sources, it sends a message to the rest of the locker room. We don't just talk, we work. And here's another layer. Roquan didn't deny that there were issues last season. He owned it. He said, yes, there were plays that didn't meet his standard. And he acknowledged that criticism, even if veiled in anonymity, wasn't entirely baseless. But instead of deflecting or defending, he shifted the conversation forward. Yesterday is the past, he said. Tune in this coming season. That's elite mindset. That's the mentality of someone who isn't content with just being great. That's a future Hall of Fame trajectory. Now let's zoom out even further. If Roquan is locked in like this, and everything from his words to his physical form to his camp performance says he is, what does that do to a Ravens defense that was already a top unit? You have one of the fastest linebackers in the game now looking like he could play safety with how agile and explosive he's moving. That gives Mike McDonald, or whoever's coordinating the defense in 2025, more flexibility than ever. Imagine the blitz packages. Imagine the coverage disguises. Imagine Roquan lurking in zone only to break on a slant like a cornerback, or shadowing a running back into the flat and turning what should have been a 5-yard gain into a 3-yard loss. This is what great defenses are made of, not just scheme, not just raw talent, but elite players who elevate everyone around them. And Roquan Smith is doing just that. His presence has already amplified the energy in training camp. You hear it in the reports, you see it in the reps, you feel it in the urgency of every player around him. The other fascinating piece here? The mental warfare. Because for all the trash talk Roquan does on the field, and let's be honest, he's got a PhD in that art, he's done almost none off the field. This offseason, this was the quiet Roquan. No Instagram clapbacks, no podcast rants, just work, just action. And that silence, combined with the new frame, the improved burst, the faster reaction time, that's what should scare the league most. Because when a player that good gets humbled, even just slightly, and then locks in with a vengeance, that's when you see legacy seasons. That's when a great linebacker becomes a generational one. And if Roquan Smith is on that path, what does that mean for the Ravens in 2025? Are we watching the beginning of a Defensive Player of the Year campaign? Or something even more iconic? And that brings us to the end of today's story. But don't go anywhere. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss another Ravens update. Smash that like button if you believe Roquan is about to shut the league up. And click on the video you see on your screen right now to keep the purple and black energy rolling. Let's keep this conversation going.